This is a Zacks.com special report. No respite from the retail sales slump. Winter storms, recession, rising job losses, and zero consumer confidence, or what about amounts to it, all came together to keep December retail sales snowed under. Here now to elaborate on that and kind of analyze this whole retail situation for us now, since we're at the beginning of a new year, Rob Plaza. Rob is our retail analyst, the aptly named Rob Plaza, I might say. Reporter said that about you one time, and I just kind of went with it from there.
Well, thank you for having me.
Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year.
If we can find anything happy in this whole retail picture here. December same-store sales came out on the 8th of January. We're recording this on the 9th of January. They were disappointing at best. But the standout, as I saw it, and you can tell me if I'm off base on this, the standout as Walmart missing street forecasts as far as same-store sales are concerned. So when the bellwether, what's considered the industry bellwether, misses, I mean, it's got to tell you that the consumer is about tapped out.
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously Walmart, it's so big that no matter what they do from a month or a quarter, it's going to be a big news story. Mm-hmm. But for them to miss, it really points to how weak a position the consumer is in right now. So, yeah, I'll agree with that.
Yeah, and so even though we have seen big discounts, some traffic generated by those big discounts, the shop till you drop mentality is pretty much gone, huh?
It's gone. It's interesting you mentioned the traffic. In the mall visits that I made throughout the holiday season, malls were fairly crowded.
Yeah.
Relative, a good comparison isn't just to walk in, the store's busy, is the parking lot packed. It's how was it last year, mm-hmm. or compared to last year.
Right.
And stores were pretty crowded, but people were, I don't know, can you window shop in a mall? I guess you can, but that's what it was. People were looking. They wanted to get out of the house. They wanted to go somewhere, do something, but they weren't necessarily shopping or buying.
So what does your retail outlook say for the first half of this year?
Well, if you're not willing to buy anything or buy a very small amount during Christmas when prices are 70% off, you get 2-for-1s, mm-hmm. There's not going to be much reason to shop during the first quarter of the year. The second quarter, there really isn't any reason to go out and shop, and retailers are already worried about that. During the last few days of the holiday season, some big department stores started to roll out spring merchandise at a discount in order to get that off their shelves before the season really even begins.
Let's talk about the forecast for, you mentioned traffic a little while ago. Mm-hmm. Let's talk about the forecast for store closings.
Okay.
I'm seeing industry experts saying that thousands of stores are going to disappear this year. And now there's a difference between closing the store and then filing bankruptcy. But when you do one, you close enough of them, I mean, can the bankruptcy part be far behind?
Okay, going back to the store closings. This is something that I was actually on top of a long time ago. I started writing about it back in December of 2007. Mm-hmm. That was one of my themes for 2008, that retailers are going to have to focus on cutting inventory and closing underperforming stores. Some retailers were ahead of the game, and they right away started chopping out those stores. As soon as leases were expiring, they were just shutting those down, not opening up new stores. Mm-hmm. Now, everyone, except for a Walmart, maybe Target, companies that are retailers that really know how to retail, they're positioned correctly. Everyone else is going to be cutting down those stores. I haven't looked at the total macro number or the big number, but 3,100 stores closing wouldn't surprise me, no.
In fact, 3,100, and the International Council of Shopping Centers says that that's going to happen just in the first half of the year. Other analysts are predicting as many as 14,000 stores for 2009 total. That's a big number.
It's a big number, but I mean, if there's one thing we've learned over the last 2 years, or at least the last year and a half, I think you have to go back to August of 2007. That's when we first started to see consumers pulling back and not shopping, or to use your term, shop till you drop. That's mm-hmm. when we first started to see that. Mm-hmm. And right now, we still have too much capacity. There's too much square footage.
Really?
If we didn't, then it wouldn't have been necessary for every retail store, well, I shouldn't say every, but nearly every retail store to roll out 60% off, 70% off discounts to encourage people to buy, to get into the store and buy.
So what you're saying is this has to happen in order to right the ship again?
Yes. Yeah. If you look over the last decade, incomes really weren't climbing at the same rate that the spending was climbing. So if you look back, 0% financing, any kind of financing deal that encouraged people to shop, pulled in a lot of sales that normally wouldn't have taken place if you were just spending within your means.
That's going to put even more pressure on the smaller retailers in the shopping centers, because when you have multiple big box vacancies, you know yourself, after several large stores have already filed for bankruptcy in 2008, the smaller stores in the strip centers cannot attract the traffic that the bigger stores, that they benefited with the bigger stores with.
Exactly, that's a great point. If you're on your own and you're selling shoes,
right,
you need to have that traffic come in. You don't have the money, you don't have the infrastructure to try and track those people, and you're relying on that shopping mall to bring in the customers for you. And that's definitely another theme that those types of stores have been having to deal with.
So if you had to characterize the retailer's mentality right now, what would it be? What in a word or phrase, what would it be?
It's time to get comfortable in the foxhole.
Really?
Because you have to retrench, save your cash, cut back where you need to, and I mean everyone needs to cut back on costs. Any type of advertising, it's just pretty much staying alive, saving your cash flow.
Okay, so what it means for the consumer: fewer stores, less brand variety on the shelves, less places to shop. Does it matter? Because if the consumer is not spending anyway, then those issues are just moot points?
As far as less places to shop, we've already seen that. I mean, there was such an expansion of strip malls and away from the large shopping mall format. And I don't know, anywhere you drive in the Midwest, West Coast, especially where anywhere there was a housing boom, there's empty strip malls just littering the landscape. So consumers are already starting to see some of that.
So for the retailer, traffic that's evaporated, stores that they've closed, what is that going to say for them as far as rent occupancy costs? Are they going to be trying to renegotiate some of those leases?
Now you've touched on the silver lining, I guess, for the retailer. If you see that your landlord is in trouble and you're willing to stay on, then definitely retailers are going in there trying to renegotiate, because that would be another way of saving cash, reducing your operating costs.
Sure, because the two things that those leases are predicated on is number one, traffic, and number two, sales in those locations. So it would stand to reason that you'd have to go in there if you don't have the foot traffic anymore, because consumers aren't coming out of their houses or whatever, to try and get those rents lowered. How successful do you think they're going to be?
I think they're already successful in doing that, because what's the option that the landlord has? Okay, I'm not going to renegotiate. You're going to have to pay this. Retailer comes back and says, okay, when my lease is up, I'm out of here. Good luck trying to refill this spot when you've got 4 other empty bays in the same strip mall, or in larger malls, or even they look even worse inside.
So you think that'll be the good news for retailers, if there is good news?
As long as they're able to make it through this period.
Yeah. How rough of a patch, time-wise, do you think this is going to translate to be?
Well, it's going to be measured in years, and it's going to be when, from an investor perspective, it's going to be when you finally stop talking about retail sales. I mean, comp store sales people are going to be like, oh, whatever. I know they're going to be bad. They've been bad for 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. So it's probably more of a 3 to 5 year, and we're still maybe only in the first year and a half, 2 years of that cycle. I
know you're starting to take a critical look at some of the large retailers. You've already got a sell on Nordstrom, for one. What are some of the others that you have sells on?
We've had a sell on JCPenney for quite a while. It's just in the department store space, and when the underlying demand for what you sell keeps drying up, it's really hard to stay positioned. My coverage list is I don't cover too many big cap stocks, but those would be 2 of the big names.
The larger ones.
Yeah.
And even in the online, I know you've got a sell on Priceline too.
Yeah, Priceline, I mean, it was a darling. I loved the stock for a while because online, low-cost way to travel, international growth. But, I mean, as the global global growth story has turned into contraction, that's going to continue to hurt Priceline's business.
Do you own either of these stocks that we've talked about?
No, I don't own any of those stocks.
All right, Rob, thanks for stopping by again. We will look forward to seeing you next month right here, same time, same channel, I guess, as they say. Unfortunately, with not so good news this time around for December same-store sales. We'll see if the picture brightens up any for the month of January. With Rob Plaza, I'm Terry Ruffalo.